So today I'm joined by David MacDonald. David is the founder of The Path, who are financial planners who want to make a positive change for people and the planet. Hi, David.
Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me today. So David, you described The Path as doing things differently. Tell us a bit more about what the planet, the Path does.
Well, first and foremost, we're financial planners. So we work with individuals and small businesses and business owners really to get their money working for them so that their financial outcomes can be achieved and ultimately to provide financial security for our clients and their loved ones. But we do it a little bit differently because a lot of traditional investments make investments into things which are damaging for people and planet. And if I just picked out, say, fossil fuels and tobacco being, for example, two industries which are directly contributing to climate change and bad health outcomes. For example, most people, our research tells us 90% of people, if asked, would you rather create harm with your investments or do good with your investments, would say that they'd rather do good with their investments. Surprise, surprise. But nonetheless, these investments are set up in such a way that inadvertently, in many cases, people's savings and investments are going into things which are not aligned to their values. So we exist to screen out these things which are unaligned with people's values, and moreover, screen in things which are more positive for people and planet. So all of the investments that we do for people's savings and investments are aligned to companies whose products and services, by and large, are contributing to solutions rather than contributing to problems. So that's the unique ethos that the company was set up with and continues to be somewhat unique, although there are one or two people who've joined that bandwagon, if we put it that way.
Okay, that's great. I love the sound of that. And it sounds as though you've got two things to, well, primarily two things to balance there, if I may say. So you've got making sure that your clients get a return on their investment, because we're talking about their savings and their pensions, and then investing that in for a better future, for a sustainable world. How do you find that balance of those two things, David?
Yeah, well, I mean, I might say there's three things. So there's the high-level strategic outcome that people want their money to have. So I suppose the majority of clients would start off spending their life making their money. The question I would put is, how are you going to use your money to create your life? So there's a sort of accumulation phase, I suppose, in business, and then a decumulation phase, which we might think of as being a working period, and then what we might call the financial independence period. Then, yes, of course, people want to make a return then on the money that gets invested. And again, with business owners, they're very busy doing whatever it is that they're brilliant at. They tend not to spend time thinking about financial outcomes and all the advantages that can be had in putting the money into the right place. I don't think there's a trade-off between investing money in a sort of ethical or positive impact way and a financial return. In fact, I think the opposite is true. It's a good way. If we think about a traditional SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I think thinking about investment through an environmental and positive impact lens is a good way of screening out the dinosaur companies that you don't want to be invested in, because they're not going to be around in their current format, certainly, for the long term, and indeed aligning to solutions-based companies, which presumably will have better financial outcomes for investors. So I think we can. I think it's a win-win from that point of view, Simon. Really.
Great, great answer. I like it. Yeah, and David, you previously worked at one of the biggest financial advisory firms in the UK.
Yeah.
And then you decided to sort of set up you were the founder of the Path. What made you decide to set up the Path and go into business?
Yeah, well, you know, one way or another, I've been involved in business all of my life. And in fact, the company I was with, it effectively worked as a franchise system. So it was a business within a business. But the real motivator was I had no control over the investment management process there. So when I voiced my concerns to the great and the good there about the fact that investments were, in my view, perpetuating the more damaging side of capitalism, if you will, it wasn't a voice that was listened to. There was no way I could influence the investment management process there. And having done some work actually in a coaching environment, if you will, on my underlying values, it was evident to me that my values were misaligned with this investment approach. So I actually took the view to retire at that point, sell the business and stop being part of what I saw as the problem. That then created the issue for me of how I was going to invest the proceeds of that business sale in a way that was aligned to my values. And I found it a real struggle to find a positive impact strategy. That's to say, one which looks at a solutions-based investment approach rather than just excluding negative aspects. So as is often the case, necessity was the mother of invention. I realized there must be lots of other people. I presumed there would be lots of other people who wanted to invest their money in a similar way to me. If I couldn't find the solution easily, then for the layperson, it was going to be extremely difficult. So it struck me that not only was there a business opportunity here, but also setting up business in a hyper niche vertical would be something which would be more visible to the people that did want to invest in that way, and it would lend itself well to digital marketing, and that's been the case. So it was, driven out of my own need and that shining a light on the fact that there was clearly a gap in the market, shall we say.
Right, and you're obviously a very experienced sort of financial planner, financial advisor. But your existing business is how long's your existing business, the Path, been running for now?
Literally just past our 3rd anniversary, so we're yet young, but we've garnered a lot of staff and clients in that time, which I would put down to being purpose-led.
Yeah, right. Well, congratulations on the anniversary, by the way. And so what have you found to be the biggest challenges in those 3 years? Because also it's been a very challenging environment, hasn't it, over that time? There's been a lot of things going on, with COVID and in the economy. What have you found to be the biggest challenges?
Well, the problems have also been the opportunities, I suppose. If you cast your mind back 3 years and change, which was when we started onboarding our first customer, that was the very start of lockdown 1. And in this business, it was traditional to meet people face to face before they entrusted their hard-earned savings with someone that usually involved one or more face-to-face meetings. Now, that didn't sit well with us because we didn't want to be particularly driving and flying to appointments because of the environmental footprint of that. So we had established paperless again, which was unusual to have DocuSign type. It was all wet ink and face to face, but our systems were set up to be paperless and to we were early adopters of Zoom. Just that the market wasn't ready for it. So the immediate problem we were confronted with was that people didn't want or couldn't have face-to-face meetings with us, indeed. So actually that played into our hands because all the meetings had to be by Zoom, and it also gave us the opportunity geographically to deal with the whole of the UK. We're constrained to the UK for regulatory reasons, but it opened it up geographically to us, and not just for customers, but for staff as well. So it's been a curious feature of the business that some of the bigger challenges have been some of the bigger opportunities. Beyond that, it's just the usual thing of balancing, I suppose, resource for deliverables with the level of inquiries. So it's never ideal that you can just turn the tap on at the rate that you want to do the deliverables from. But yeah, so it's been one of those. Been one of those. But yeah, there's a. Employing a lifetime's experience in getting all the best practices organized together in one new firm's again an opportunity, but it's certainly a challenge and a steep learning curve when you come out of a national firm into a small business.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. It's yeah, those first few years of business can be challenging, because as you quite rightly say there, not only have you actually got to do the business, but you've got to set up the business, the framework, the systems, the processes, all of those sort of things. But I like the way that your your thought process there, David, in the the challenges of the opportunities, and I found this through COVID with my clients, the ones that fared the best were the ones that actually looked at that and said, okay, well, what are the opportunities in this environment? They took ownership, they took accountability, and they took responsibility for what they did, and they actually came out of the environment stronger because they'd adapted. And you mentioned there Zoom as a prime example. Yeah, Zoom was around quite a long time before we went into lockdown, but people weren't using it. And going through that crisis, we found other ways of working, different ways of working, more efficient ways of working. And I think the research has shown that in those few years, we jumped forward sort of 5 or 6 years, because we were forced into this environment of making change, rather than just staying in our comfort zone. And so I like the way you've looked at those challenges and opportunities. So what you mentioned there about the learnings, what's been your biggest learning since you've been in business?
Well, probably something around the Pareto principle. I would have thought that, or sort of less is more, or actually, curiously, the tighter the vertical you're in, the more visible you are. So probably something around not being frightened of saying no, and of concentrating resources on where the results are to be had, rather than saying yes to everyone.
Okay, very good. So Pareto's principle we're talking about there, the 80-20 rule, which is used in a number of different scenarios, but generally sort of the 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients, but it can be used in different ways. And so I take it from that you've very much identified your key market, your focus, and therefore very strict in saying, okay, does the business we're doing, or does what we're doing, fit with that? If it doesn't, you're not afraid of saying no. If it does, great. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely right. So we won't compromise in terms of the investment management approach. We're 100% impact only, and we'll only work with clients who are comfortable to have 100% wallet share or purse share in that type of investment. And yeah, it's just the ethos of the firm is that we won't be compromised, and that allows us to have our intrinsic authenticity uncompromised, and it allows that to shine through. So the current thinking in financial advisor land is that, you know, maybe we can risk clients having 10 or 20% of their portfolio in this kind of crackpot bunny hugger eco type investment. And we say, no, you can't be 75% vegan. You either are or you aren't, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Or
So you're very
slightly
much
pregnant.
sticking. You're very much sticking to your values and what the, you know, we mentioned earlier about, you know, what are your different, and that you and that's a lot of that is what you invest in. But you stick to that. You're not, you know, you're not swaying from that. But okay, that's what makes us different. We're focusing on that. So okay, and what have you learned about yourself during your journey?
I think that's a really challenging and deep question. But I mean, ultimately, I would say the way to answer it is that it's okay to be me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know, I am what I am, and you know, I'm not going to say take it or leave it because that sounds very arrogant. But I spent my early career trying to be a chameleon that could fit to any particular situation. And whilst that's got some advantages, certainly from a sort of salesperson's perspective, to adapt to communication style or something like that, I probably wasn't being the authentic me. I've now got the confidence to actually just do that and say, well, if you don't like it, I'll try not to take it personally. Of course, I still do, but it's important, probably more for me to be authentic and true to myself than to try and be something that I'm not.
I like it. I think the saying is, be yourself because everyone else is taken. I quite like that saying. Have you got any particular favourite quotes or sayings that you like, David?
Yeah, well, I mean, any number, I suppose. I was just saying to one of my kids this morning, I spend my life talking in metaphor and idiom, really. But in our, well, you know, a self-baked one is, you know, lots of people like to sort of think that they can do their own financial planning by like reading a book or picking funds and all the rest of it. But, well, you know, you don't know what you don't know. It's that Rumfeldism of the unknown unknowns. So there I am. I'm getting to a phrase I'm saying by using one. But you know, you don't know what you don't know. And I always say to clients, well, I mean, of course you can do your own financial planning. You can do your own dentistry if it comes down to it. But at some point, the experience can be rather painful. So you often want to entrust yourself to someone who's got the relevant training and can ask, well, much as you probably do, Simon, the relevant, asking the appropriate questions in order to get to the answers is a skill, and you don't necessarily know how to do that for yourself in many realms. And financial planning, in my view, is one of them. So yeah, I would no more trust my financial planning to myself as a widget maker than I would, you know, my dentistry. I think stick to what you're good at and get other people to do what they're good at.
Yeah, you know, again, I absolutely agree. I'm a firm believer of actually, you know, we're all expertise in our own field. So yeah, get the financial advisors to do the, you know, the financial plan, and get your plumbers to do your plumbing, your electricians to do your electricians. And obviously I would say this, but get your business coach to help you with you know, running your business, because we don't get taught that at school. You know, that just doesn't happen. I know you're a fan of Nelson Mandela, and you know, one of my quotes that I like is a Nelson Mandela quote, which is, "Action without vision is passing the time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world." And that's something that and I can read that straight off because I've got it actually up on my wall in front of me, just reminding me of what a you know, a positive sort of view that is. That, yeah, we have to have action and vision to change the world. And I always like to ask this question, but what's the best advice you would give an 18-year-old you, David?
Well, it'd be probably something around believing in yourself and figuring out the path that you want to go on, and having the confidence to do it. And I'd probably tie that off with another saying, which I learned a very long time ago, which is, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, the chances are you'll be right. So thinking in terms of possibilities, somewhat to that Mandela quote of, yeah, you got the dream, but you've got to enact it, otherwise nothing's going to happen, eh?
Yeah, and look, and again, another quote that I quite like that you've just recited. I think that's a great bit of advice. You know, you mentioned now having the belief, having the confidence, and I think that's a great bit of advice to give people. Look, well, David, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.